Hey guys, it's Katie. So I'm going to attempt to make this flower again, but I'm going to try it a different way. So the other day I made this one, and what's really weird, and here's a baked piece, is that these two petals reduced quicker or something. It's really odd that it did this. I've had that happen once before, and when it happened to me, when I was backfilling, I ran out of a brand of translucent that I was using, the pack of translucent I was using, and I had another pack that I had to open up, and it was more crumbly. And when I backfilled with that, the softer translucent around it reduced quicker, so then it made half of it reduce faster and half of it reduce slower. Same thing, here's another piece of it, and these two are still smaller. So I'm going to try to do this. Now, I did this a different way than I'm going to try this time, and I did it more of a complicated way the first time, and I'm hoping this way will work better. What I did before was took some white and I made a jelly roll. I took a sausage of white, wrapped it in translucent, formed those into little teardrop shapes, different size teardrop shapes, and then I took translucent and literally, if I draw it on my tile, you know, I stood those translucent, if you can see this, the jelly roll teardrops. I just put different size ones. I wanted it to be random. And then literally I just filled in everything around the teardrops with translucent until I got a petal shape. And I showed you a picture of my petals before I put them all together. They were all the same exact freaking size. So I don't know what happened. Again, this is just a piece of the scrap here that the end that I baked. But anyways, so this time we're going to do it a little differently, and I'm hoping it will be easier. So this time all we're going to do is I have some white here, and I'm going to use Cernet today, just because that's what I plan on using today. That one I use mainly Primo. So anyways, I'm going to take this sheet that I've conditioned of white, and I'm not going to make a bullseye like I did last time. I took a sausage of white and wrapped it in translucent. This time I'm just going to do white. And the reason why I didn't do it this way the first time is because I really want these pieces inside to be teardrop shape. Sorry, my washer's going upstairs. I did not want them to be round. So I'm going to attempt to make them teardrop shape, but some of them may turn out round. So I'm going to get this down into like a really fat little sausage here, just by compressing it. You can also roll your hands together instead of apart, and you see how it starts to get fatter in the middle there, and then kind of push the ends in. And we're going to do different sizes of these, but because I want, where's my drawing? I want like a random patterned flower, kind of like this, just random. And I know that looks goofy, but that's kind of what I want. So there's our white. Pretty simple. Just a log of white. Next, you're going to need your translucent. And we're going to shape this into a petal shape or a teardrop shape. I hope this is enough. This is like a 3/4 of a pack, a 2-ounce pack of Cernet. And I'm wondering if I should just get out a full pack and then backfill with this, if this is going to be big enough for what I want. Might not be big enough. I'm going to save this pack for backfilling, and I'm going to save, I would get another pack to do the inside. Let me grab that, hang on. Okay, so here's a 2-ounce pack of the Cernet translucent, and again, the Cernet, other than Pardo, is one of the best translucents I've found. But actually, when I was making that sunflower cane the other day in Cernet, some of the Cernet can be really sticky. So it might not be, depending how humid it is or how hot it is. My humidity is at 70%. It was at like 75, 76% the other day in my basement. And the Cernet was like literally like gummy, like hot cheese. It almost reminded me of that packaged cheese you used to get when you were a kid, and it was like flappy and soft and sticky, and it just wasn't that working. Everything was smearing, and It was just so sticky. I really struggled with it. So Cernit may not be the greatest summertime clay, but it is one of the best translucents. At least some of the Cernit colors, like the metallics, are always really, really sticky, I've found. Good for winter time. The translucent's not as sticky. But I'm going to get this conditioned in my machine so that way it's ready to go. And then I'll be right back. And that way I have a full pack out of the same package to make the inside of the flower, and I have enough from the same package to backfill everything. And if I was smart, what I might do, this is just that pack I just opened and ran it through my pasta machine, is take this that I, out of that other pack, and mix them all together. So they're all kind of evenly mixed with the two packs to make sure they're all about the same consistency. So what I'll do is I'll take parts of this pack and mix it with this pack and then mix it all together. Like that. And then I'll run all these through into one big mass of clay. I do it separately like this just because it's easier for me just to deal with little blocks right out of the machine, or little pieces out of the block of clay. I just cut it into little strips. And that way I know it's about 50-50 that pack and this pack. And then I'll take two of these and mix them together, and then as I go. So there's one. And then I'll mix two of those together. And then I'll condition these. I don't like to put all of this. This is about, if I have a full 2-ounce block, this is probably about almost 4 ounces of clay, and that's a lot to put through my machine. So I'll just mix half of it together and then half of it together. And kind of condition it this way in 2 separate batches. And then what I'll do, now that I got these, I'll take half of this one and mix it with half of this one. And that way I should have an even mix of those 2 packs of clay. And we'll probably use most for the petal and some for backfilling. Now I'm going to, before we start, tell you one other thing I'm going to use at the end of this to wrap each petal in, but you can use pure white. So the other day when I made this flower, I started off with this wrapped in a layer of setting 0 translucent. So my, this was mainly white with a thin coating. It'd be like this, just like this. We would wrap it in a layer of translucent. And obviously I had excess of this, so it was like this. Well, rather than scrap it, because it's mainly white, I'm going to use that scrap right here. So this is the excess bullseye white that I had wrapped in translucent, and I mixed it up, and I'm going to use that to wrap the petal. So if you make a translucent cane, and even if it's like this scrap here, where it's, again, can you see that in there? This is the end canes. It's not pure translucent anymore, so you wouldn't want to use it as like a pure translucent backfilling, but it has some white in it. You can, oh, see, there's that petal right there. It has, see, I kind of filled around those. But anyways, I mixed some more white with this, and I'm using this to backfill, or I'm going to use it to wrap around my petal, if that makes sense. So if you have scraps, translucent scraps that have some color in it and you don't want to use it anymore as pure translucent. And I know it's really hard to see with Cernit because the Cernit translucent's really white, but there is white and translucent there. Just mix some more white into it and you will still have maybe more translucent white, but it's still going to be opaque enough. See, that's what I did. So this is mostly white with scrap translucent. That's what I used to wrap these petals in. And you can still see it. I mean, it's not completely translucent. So you can use this scrap. Don't be like, oh, it's gone. And even if you made these with a color, just mix more color into it. Yes, it may not be opaque as a solid color, and it's definitely not going to be as translucent as regular translucent, but you'll be able to use it, if that makes sense. So I'm going to use that as well, and any excess we have from this cane too. But you can just use pure white to wrap it when we get there. So I just quickly made this translucent into a log, and I apologize that when I'm going to make a white and translucent cane, especially with Cernit white, it looks just like the white, but it baked, it looks so much better than like Primo. I mean, Primo is easy on video for you guys to see the difference between the translucent and white, but baked it doesn't look as good. So I'm using the Cernit because that's what I want to use in a project. And I don't get paid for these videos, so I'm not just going to use clay just to use clay to make it easier to see. So again, this is translucent, and this is our white sausage. So we have it into a little fat log, and I did that fast because we did it the same way as this, except for I didn't make it as short. And now we're going to shape this into a teardrop shape, or a petal shape. That way we have an idea of where to set our translucents. Now, when I did this the other day, I made the teardrop shapes and then I put the translucent around it. Today I'm gonna have the translucent base and put the white spots in the petal, if that makes sense. And I should have saved that video to show you, but I thought it would make it too complicated to show you my practice run and then figure out, hey, I'm not gonna do it that way because it seemed more complicated than it needs to be. So try to make your petal even all the way down, and that way you know exactly what's happening on both sides. If one side doesn't look the same as the other, when you're setting it in, your white in, it's going to look goofy. And remember, mostly what's going to show after it's baked is the white on the clay background. You're not really looking to see the translucent if we can help it. Now we're going to be changing the shape of this later. I just want to know where to stick these white sausages in there. You know, we have to have an idea of where we're putting them, so that's why we're shaping it kind of like our petal will be. And again, I don't want to just stick little round spots in here. I want them to be more teardropped inside of there, so we're going to try to get that to do what I want it to do. So again, I'm trying to get different sized teardrops inside of the translucent. Okay, so that's probably good enough look-wise to know where I'm setting things. Let me make sure my ends look very similar to... Sorry, it's laundry day, so you're going to hear everything upstairs. Okay, so now we need to begin cutting this and laying in our sausages. And we're going to bring this down to different sizes, the white, but... So I want one in the middle. I'm going to want a couple in the middle, but I don't want them centered. So I'm going to want one. Let me just kind of give you an idea. I don't know how this is going to work. We'll see. I'm going to want one kind of there. Maybe. And I don't want them all to be the same size either. I kind of want one here. I'm shaky. It's probably lunchtime. Maybe one here. I want this first one maybe to be a little bigger. Start over. Big one here. So you can draw on this. I want a bigger one here. You know, you could use like a ball tool or anything to draw on it. I want them bigger towards the tip and then smaller as they go. Maybe one there. So the other day, like I said, I made a bullseye with white center, translucent outside. I set them up all on the tile like this, and then I just filled in with translucent. And it was like a puzzle. I'd put like a triangle here, a triangle here, I'd put a layer here. You know, I kind of just put it wherever I needed it. It wasn't hard to do, but it did take longer, I think, than doing it this way. But I wanted them teardrop, not just round. And that's why I went with that way first and not this way first, because I got to figure out how to get these in here without just putting little sausages of white in here. I'm going to kind of draw it first. Wow, I'm shaky. I need to eat. I might eat before I start this. Maybe one more right here. Something like that. So when it bakes, all you see is the white outline and then all these white spots in there. Maybe a little small one. But my hard thing is as I cut this to put one in, I was like, how am I not going to distort other ones or make sure I get it back together perfectly? You know? So I guess maybe we just start cutting, put one in, put it back together, cut, put another one in, put it back together, because I didn't want them all in a line either. I want them random. I'm going to eat something quick and then I'll come back and we'll start cutting this and putting sausages in. And we'll see if it works this way, and if it doesn't work this way, then I'll do it the other way and show you that way. Okay, I'm finally back. I went to eat lunch, and then my car's in the shop today, so I called my mechanic, and one of my tires is bad, so I had to bring him one of the belts let loose. My car's been pulling, so I had to bring him some of my other tires, which the only other car we have at our house right now is my fiance's 1971 Monte Carlo that's jacked up in the front, laid back in the back. Big block. I had to drive that on these narrow back dirt roads, and I was like scared shitless. But I made it, and I'm back, and it was shaky. The thing's got way too much power for me. So anyways, so now we're going to begin. What I would say is cut in the middle of each one. So I'm going to do this bottom one first, and I'm going to cut down through, and we're going to do it kind of like we do when we're adding some like stamens into a flower petal. So I'm going to kind of mark it, and then I'm going to mark it on the sides as well, just so I can make sure I kind of cut down evenly. I can follow those lines. Okay, ready? We're going to cut down through. And you can kind of rock your blade side to side to make sure and check on that side you're making sure you're getting through. Now this is a thick blade. I actually should use one of my thinner blades. And I might get out one of my new ones to cut through this. I'm a little off a little bit there on the front, but that's okay. Okay, so now we have these two parts. What we're going to do, and we're going to end up distorting this outside, is we have to make a white one to fit in there. So we're going to take a piece of this. I mean, we could reduce this whole thing, but I'm not going to. Let me just take a piece of it. And we're going to make that about that size of that teardrop. So I'm just going to start by pushing any air out. So starting in the middle and working up to the end. And starting in the middle and working up to the end. And then I'll just roll this because there's no pattern in it, so it doesn't really matter. My hands hurt from gripping that wheel so tight. Whew, it was sketchy. I'll have to show you guys at some point. That's his baby. I think that's why I was most scared, because it's his baby, you know. So I'm going to take a wider part, because I want this to be the biggest one. And maybe this part over here. And roughly about as tall as that is. Something about like that. And I can recut it in a second. Okay. So now we have a white sausage. I'm going to get my new blade out too. So when I cut down through the rest of these, I have a couple of nice new blades that I'm going to use. Because cutting all of these is where I think we'll get distortion. The next thing is I want to make this kind of a teardrop shape, because I don't want these to be circles. So I'm going to pinch it to be a teardrop. And again, this will kind of tweak the length of it too when we do this. So I'm pinching all down. And then, you know, I think I'm going to narrow the top, because I want these all different looking teardrop shapes, but I'm going to try to get it that way to begin with. It's a little fatter there. Wow, this white is really sticky at the moment. It's hot out. I mean, it's really hot out right now. I think Vermont summers are changing. It's like 89 right now. That used to be unusual when I was a kid to get that hot. So once it looks about even all the way down the length, then we need to modify this guy. And what I'm going to do, just so I kind of, I'm going to put this down in the center, and that way I kind of have an idea of where I want that to go. And then normally you would just kind of allow an area. I might try to nick out some of this. I don't know, I'm just playing with this, guys. I'm going to try to make a mark. So normally what I would do if I was adding a stamen is just allow a spot in there with something round. You could use a pencil or anything. And don't worry if your outside gets distorted. You know, and kind of just allow a groove for this top part to sit in there. I know that side looks funny, but I'm going to cut it off for this top part to sit in there like that. So just kind of, this pencil doesn't, let me just use my needle tool. Because that pencil's a chalk pencil and I got some black on this. See, this is what I worry about of distorting the other ones that are beside it. So I'm just doing a little bit where the teardrop part will go, and then a little bit on the fat part. So a little bit here, and then a little bit where the fat part. And I'm going to do a little on this side too. A pencil would actually work better, but that pencil's got, because I use it with my charcoals, it has stuff on it, so let me wipe it off a little bit. And there's my thing. So let me make a mark here. This is where the tiny Pandora cane benders would come in, the round ones. I do actually have something very similar to that. In the dental field, we use these sharpening. Like I ordered these off of Amazon. These are little squares, just little acrylic rods. And then, if I can find it, in the dental world, we use sharpening sticks. And maybe I won't be able to find it. It's a little round thing. But even a paintbrush handle will work. Anything that's, you know, round would work. Even like I have these clay tools. Something like that would work. So just... So then when we put it back together, we already have a... That's a little uneven, isn't it? I gotta make this one a little longer. Here, down here more, and when we push it back together, it should all fill in. For our teardrop to sit in. So, make sure my teardrop shape looks about good still. We'll see if this works this way. Kind of just winging it as I go. And then we'll set this guy down in there. You know, maybe I want the end to be a little pointier. It's getting really soft for some reason. I haven't even touched it in like 2 hours. Could be my hands are super hot because I was so nervous driving that. So that doesn't look very even, but it's going to be too hot for me to take back out, so I'm going to leave it. Just this teardrop, when I make slices, will be smaller than that teardrop, but that's okay. Gotta just kind of go with it sometimes. See how this side is smaller than that side, but whatever. We'll make do. And then we'll put it back together. Like that. And hopefully when we slam it, that should keep it either in a teardrop or some kind of ovally shape. I didn't want them to be circles. It's not what I wanted. So then push it back together well, because you don't want it to come back apart when you cut for your next one. And we're just going to keep doing that all over, just different sizes of teardrops. We're going to keep kind of doing that. So I'm going to use my nice, yeah, that's my new blade. I'll probably do this one over here. And if you pull out on the edges, like out that way, your blade sometimes will go through easier. Okay. And I'm going to put my needle tool in there just to try to make a straight mark of where I want the big part to be again. And then again, we'll take something. And when I get small, I could even use like this Q-tip, this wooden Q-tip, or my needle tool when I get to the smaller ones. And this is what I was worried about distorting the one next to it. But if I do a little bit on both sides, then hopefully it won't distort the other ones. It might distort your teardrop, but we can reshape the teardrop. Let's check it together to make sure I got a big enough of a gap. I'll do a couple of these on camera, and then I'll do a couple of them off camera. Yep, that should be fine. And then let's make a teardrop. I might re-roll that because that kind of got... Let's again make a big one. Just cut a piece off. Let's just shape this into a teardrop shape again. And the end ones, when I get down to the round part of the teardrop up here, I want those to be really small, so I'll just make smaller sausages and smaller teardrops. Again, sorry the washer's going. I'm washing our bedding today, so. I love a clean bed. If I could have one thing every day, it would be a clean bed. Not dishes done, not anything like that, not my house vacuumed. It would be a clean bed every day. That's like the best thing to me. It's a clean bed. Okay, and we'll put this one in too. This is easier than the first way I did it. Don't worry about little flicks in your clay. I mean, that really, when we're making slices like this, that probably won't really even show up. And we'll put this back together. Because I stretched that, it didn't all completely cover it. I wonder if I can get it back off. Nope. That's okay. I'll cover it with a little piece of translucent wrapping when I'm done. Or maybe now, so you can see it. I'll put a little piece of translucent there. Just going to take a little piece of translucent and run this on a pretty thin setting just to get a little layer to cover that. This is setting 4. Yeah, that should be good. I'm just kind of working with it. Don't freak out if things don't work out. Just kind of go with it. Because the outside we're going to reshape anyways. You know, once we get all of these in here, it's probably not going to look like a perfect teardrop. So we'll have to reshape the, you know, our petals later. Especially once we reduce this down so we can get like 5 or 6 petals out of it. But I just want the white covered up. That. So at least the white's covered. We'll see how that works out. Okay. So now we got 2 in there. Just kind of smushing it back together so it doesn't come apart. And now let's do this third one. Maybe I'll do this third one off camera because it's just like these 2, and then I'll come back and we'll do a couple up from that. So I can already see they are kind of getting distorted as I push the indents in, but at least they're not little round circles that are just getting distorted. I saw a picture of something and they just had long white pieces in the middle and I thought it looked pretty, so I was trying to, I don't know what it was. It could have been a painting. I don't know what it was. It just kind of, somehow it's sticking in my head. I wanted to try to recreate something like that. I'm trying to make them all different levels and different sizes and different shapes. So anyways, let's do another one. Put that one there maybe. So I might end up cutting into them, and if I do, that's okay. We just got to make sure it goes back together well. You know, where that white touches that white. That's why I didn't do it this way to begin with, but we're going to try it, and I'll see. I'll put my thing down in where I want it. And I'll put this, line this one back up. Something like that. if this is the best way to do this. I really don't. The more I keep working with it, the softer it's going to get, so. Probably use this one because I can make it meh. Let's just do a new one. I want this to be a little smaller than what it was, or what sizes I was doing before. Some I'm going to make longer, some I'm going to make a little fatter. Set this one down in here. If they're gonna get that distorted, I'm not gonna fancy it then. I just wanted some kind of oblong look. And I gotta make sure that white, I don't know if you could see the white down in there. From the, you can see the line from where this one is. I can see it right there. I gotta make sure that sits on top of that. So they match up. So maybe I should set it from that first. Get that part sitting down on top of that one first. Like that. And then roll it up. We'll see if this works out. Might still give me something cool. If it reduces down, fine. Like, I didn't even care that these weren't perfectly teardrop because it still looked like a cool accent petal. If these would have reduced fine, I would have used this as an accent cane for sure. But we'll see how this works out. Doing it this way. And you may, after seeing this, think of a different way to do this. And if you do, great, do it that way. Okay, so you might have to cut down through them, but it is what it is. One more on camera and then I'll go off camera. I kind of want to put one, a smaller one right here. Sorry, I mean a piece of cantaloupe. It's hot. Not the cantaloupe. I am hot. I'm going slow when I cut, so that way I can try to cut as straight as possible. Do you see the white right there? And right there, let me see if I can get it to focus. You see that white? That's what I'm trying to line up when I put it to get back together with this side. So in real life you can see it. On camera maybe not so much. Okay, so then where I want it, I'm going to draw a straight line down. And then put this part back. Just kind of push a little indent in that. And this is going to be a little one, so I don't want to make it as big. I can't really use this because it's bumping on my table, but I can use this. So this will probably be, again, the last one I do on camera, and then I'll do the same things with the other ones. This is going to stretch that white out, so I need to make sure, if anything, that white matches up, not the top. So let's see. If I get this white to match with this white, something like that. I'll make a really tiny little teardrop. Not too small, because I still want to go smaller on the others. And then I'll put it back together. Again, getting that white to match up with that white, which could be the hardest part. It gets distorted when you put that indent in. Which I was way off on my indent, but that's okay. This is a pretty thin piece, so it should just kind of mold around it like that. Hopefully. I guess we'll just have to see how it turns out. And again, if this doesn't work out right, I'll do it the other way. The other way wasn't hard. It was just making all these teardrops, setting them in, and then making the translucent backfill around it. So I'm gonna have to see how this turns out. Might give a cool effect. Okay. So I'm going to keep going with that, just cutting through wherever I want them, making them all different size, different. I'm not going to do like rows of them, you know, like these two are almost too even. I would have liked them to be a little more staggered like this one and this one. But I'll just keep going with it and we'll see how it works. After adding a couple more, I wonder if it would be worth trying this to not mess with the bottom ones. Cutting this top half off, like right above, and then doing some up here and then sticking it back together. I might try it. We'll see. I'll cut this top half off and I can put some up there. I kind of want to stick one more in here. I might try a different way of doing this. Let me see if I just slit it like this, open it up just a hair. Maybe I can kind of do it like this. I don't know, guys. I'm just trying different things out. Let's see if I can. I gotta do a little more on that side. Get it down in there, right? I have all these white pieces that I'll just smush back together and make another sausage out of, but I still have this. Let's make this one like a little one. Because I kind of slit into that one, didn't I? Yeah, this one's going to have to be small. Summertime claying is so different. Everything's so soft. We bitch about it in the winter, but then in the summer it's like, oh, it's so sticky. You kind of forget how hard it is to cane in the summer. Ooh, look at that one. I made that one really flat on that side. It's okay. It'll just be a little one. Let's see if I can set that down in there. It's hard doing it this way because it's hard to get it down in there. And straight. It wants to stick to absolutely everything. So you're probably better off leaving yourself a little end to hang on to. And it should close up right there, even though there's a hole. As when we compress it and compact it, when we reduce this down, that should close up. And then I'll do a couple of them on the top here, even though we'll have to eventually get this to mimic that shape again. We'll put them together, back together like that. So let's get a couple down in there. This will be easier actually, having we'll put one a little lower. So I'm just putting this line in here so I kind of know where it is on both sides. These ones I don't want to be big at all, the ones on the top. Which again makes it harder the smaller they are too. And I'm making each teardrop individually so that way they're slightly different. Each shape is going to be slightly different than the next one. I don't want them, I want it very irregular. I don't want them the same. Maybe a little too big for what I wanted. Let's can fit it. The wide part there. Told my fiance, I said, I'm not going to park the money back in the garage. I said, you can park it when you get home. It's just so long and wide. I mean, my first car was a Cadillac Eldorado, but it was like a 19 something, you know? It wasn't a 1970 car. You know, and they were wicked different. Shit, I had a hard time just getting into drive because it doesn't have the thing on the column. It has like a thing that you got to pull up and push down on the shifter, and on these two knuckle things, you got to pull up, and he changed it. It's not just like it used to be on the column, the drive column. You used to have to flip this big lever. It's not like that because he's modified it. I mean, it's like supercharged and big block and rear wheel drive, like a nice burnout kind of 30-something-year-old man car. He loves it. It's his toy. I think which is why it made me more nervous to drive it, because he loves it so much. His uncle bought it in high school. I think it was his uncle's first car, and gave it to my fiance when we first started dating. He might have been 20-something, 23, 24, because his uncle lives in Alaska. So he gave it to him. He said he would give it to him at some point. His uncle's had it brand new since he bought it, and it's in freaking great condition for being a 71. I think I just got a voicemail from the guy at the shop. I'll do this one, and then it'd probably be good to let this rest too, just a little bit before I reduce it down, because it's so soft, and I find the softer things are, the more waste you get when you reduce. And again, each teardrop making separately, so they're all different. I'm not making a whole line of teardrops. I want them all to be different. I hope everybody's doing well with this COVID stuff. Vermont is, I just saw a map the other day. Vermont's the only one that's green in the main part of the U.S. We're green still. So we're doing well. You know, it's the week after the 4th of July. I don't know what's today, the 7th? July 7th. And we're pretty much opened back up. But most people are still wearing masks in the store. We're still, you know, avoiding mass gatherings. Oop, I just used the wrong side of my blade to cut that in. You know, so we're still trying to be pretty cautious, I believe people are. And then we'll stick these on like this here. Okay, I gotta make maybe 2 or 3 more in here. And then when that's done, I'll stick it back together. But I'll come back. I gotta go call him so I can pay him. And then I'll finish those up. I think you've seen enough of them. And then we'll jam it back in. And together, and we'll reduce it down and put it together and make 6 petals and see how it looks. So I got 4 in there. And I'm going to try to put these back together. Looks like it might need to be squished just a little bit. Or did I want it to go this way? See, these might line up too much. I might actually flip it and do it this way. Yep. I squished it a little too much on this end. We'll see how that works. I don't know if it was a good idea to do that or not a good idea to do that. And I kind of want to put in 2 more, I think. Just get this all pushed back together. I think I want to put, yeah, 1 more right here on the edge and maybe 1 right there in between that seam. So let's do that. Two more, so I'm going to put maybe 1 right here and 1 right here. Like right there maybe. And then do I want to cut it off? Might be easier. Oh, I did go into one of them. Can you see that white right there? I was hoping not, but I did, so oh well. Maybe I'll put it right where that seam is. Just a little one. Because it's right up at the top. I'm going to pause it and just do these 2. Okay, so they're all in there. I don't know if you could see them all, but they're all in there. This side's probably better. There's some there, there. Kind of just staggered throughout. And pretty much, I think I'm going to let this rest. I'm going to go make my bed and stuff just so it can cool off a little bit, the white at least. And then we'll reduce this down to about 6 inches long so I can get 6 petals from it, and we'll see what happens to the shape of those. You know, like this bottom one's already kind of gotten goofy, but it may just be more smeared on the outside from my fingers than it actually is on the inside. So that's where you don't really know when it's hot if you're just like smearing it. So like this looks like a triangle, but a little piece was just laying over it. So you really don't know what it's going to look like. And actually, we're going to wrap this too. So I'm going to use that white translucent mix. I hope I might need to make some more. So I'll take some of that scrap I had from the other day. And again, I'll show you. So this is the scrap that was white and translucent mixed in there. See, there's that jelly roll or part of it or something. So I'll take some more of this and then I'll add a little more white to this. So you can use your white or your translucent if it has some white in it. Just add some more white to it to get it to be a little more opaque, and then you can reuse it. So I'm just going to add white to this white translucent scrap that I had. See, See, you can see right there the translucent and the white. Right there, you can see the petals. Right there, same kind of idea. You can see the petals. So I'm just going to add some pure white to that to make it more opaque, and then we'll wrap this. So I have it on a setting 3. It depends how thick your border, you know, how you want. If you want it thicker, go thicker. If you want it thinner, go thinner. So I kind of need to get a rough width of this. Oops. I'd rather have it a little longer than shorter. I can always cut the excess off later. So this is a white translucent mix here. Okay, make one end flat. And then I always make one end flush, and then I'll have the excess hanging up on the other side. This is soft. It is soft, especially after just mixing that white and translucent together. It's pretty soft. So I will let this rest before I reduce it down. I mean, I find the hotter it is, the stickier the clay is, the more air bubbles I get trapped, because before you can actually push the air out, it sticks. And then the more distortion I get. And again, if you have cane caps, those work awesome. You could use those. And we're going to use this white translucent mix as well for the center. But you could just use pure white. It's so sticky. It's the cernet is sticky. The cernet colors. So keep that. The translucent's not as bad, but the colors are. And actually, that was about the right width, so that will be our wrapping. And I'm going to let this sit before I begin to reduce it down and then shape it into our petal shape. So let it rest for a while, probably half hour or so. I'll let it rest. Depends how it feels, and then I'll mess with it later. Okay. So it's probably been 2 hours or so. It's 8:30. I'm still waiting for Josh to get home so I can go get my car from the shop. But I'm going to reduce this, and I may have to stop in between. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to reduce this. You can reduce any shape you want. Sometimes it's easier to do a triangle for people. Sometimes you can keep it this teardrop shape. Either way, you're going to start in the middle here and work up to the end. That way, any air trapped in the middle, we're going to push out the end, hopefully. So literally, just with your 2 fingers, just like a circle, but we're not doing a circle. Just kind of make the middle. And try to put the same amount of pressure every time you put it. We're going to make this middle indented. Now, if you have trouble with this and trying to keep it this shape, you could make it a triangle just by pushing it down on the tile. This will become flat and you can reshape it later. We're going to have to reshape our petals a little bit anyways, but so then once you have the center indented some, you're just going to work from there and work up to the end. Just like this. And already we've gotten it quite a bit smaller. And then flip it. Do the same thing. So you may want to make it a triangle, and you totally can. Triangles, squares, and circles are the easiest reduced, but I've reduced a star before. And I backfilled it, but I didn't quite backfill it enough, and I kept it star-shaped. And you can pull on it a little bit. It's not quite long enough to be able to really pull it, but you can. And so if you have those tiny Pandora cane ends, you could put those on to help with distortion, but I don't have those, so I'm going to get distortion no matter what. And so just keep going. Okay, so I'm going to either speed this up or something because I'm already at an hour. I just edited the first part of the video and it's already at an hour, so I'm going to get my butt moving. So real time, that took me about 5 minutes total. And I'm going to see where my distortion ends, or most of my distortion. Oh, yeah, so there's still some distortion there. That actually might look really cool. Still some there, but not tons. So I might use those little ends. Let me see. I want to get 6 petals out of it. I like 5 petal flowers. Someone commented, oh my god, hibiscus is going running because I said I don't like 6 petal flowers. Or 5 petal flowers. I like 5 petal flowers. I just don't like making 5 petaled flowers. They never look right to me when I make them. In real life though, different story. I like all flowers. I just prefer not to make them 5 petal. So I'm trying to get 6 petals out of here. Okay. So now that I have enough, we'll cut 6 1-inch strip. 1 inch is about the smallest I go height-wise because it gets harder to reduce. But you could do 1.5. You could do whatever you want. It's hard with the camera right in front of my face. And for some reason when I do this, I always close one eye. Do you guys do that? I'll cut those. And then we'll reshape them just a little bit to make sure they look like what we want. And if you had changed that into a triangle, you could just have rolled off the round end before you cut them. So that's what we're looking like inside. So not perfect teardrops or anything, but I think they'll be okay. And the shape is actually pretty good. Just got to make sure down the length it looks pretty good. You know, from here to here it's about even, and your points are about even. Either way, I think this is just like a cool type of looking flower. That one's a little fat, so I'm going to edit that shape a little bit. It's also a little shorter than the other ones, so that's good. I can make it a little narrower. And I'll get a little taller. Maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to shape these up. Again, I'll fast forward it because I don't want to make this much more than an hour because some people get bored with it. Our petal's ready to go, really. So right now it's a little too soft. So again, I'm going to let it rest again. My center is going to be just a mix of that white translucent. And so again, now that you've made this, you'll have a white translucent scrap too. All of these are white and translucent scraps, the end canes that I just cut off. So feel free to mix a little more white in that. Or if you did it in a color in that, and you would have exactly what I wrapped this in. And I'm going to be making the center out of. Or you can just use plain white. Whatever you want to do. Just trying to get, some of them are a little shorter than the others. So it's kind of going to look like that, you know, which will actually look pretty cool. I just don't want to stick them together right now. I'm afraid they'll stick too much, but I think they'll actually look cool. And then we'll take our white mix and we'll roll it out into a small little sausage. And then we'll have our center ready. And then really all we have to do is backfill. Backfilling, we're going to do it the same way we just did the last couple of flowers I posted. Really no different. So probably just a little circle to fit in here. Tall enough? Yep. Probably stick it all together and then just wait on backfilling. So on the point of one, usually I'll stick 3 together and then the other 3. So generally I do something like this. And flowers don't have to be perfect, guys. Allow yourself to not let them be perfect. It's okay if a petal looks a little different. It truly is. No one but you is going to look at it and go, oh my God, that petal is a different shape. No one but you is going to do that. So don't let yourself do it to yourself. And then pushing on the opposing. I wish I could get that apart, but I'm not going to be able to. I would have liked to set that petal in more like it is on this side. I should have looked at the other side when I put it together, but I'm going to rip it if I push it apart, so oh well. I'm just pushing on the opposing petals to kind of get them down in there. And that's our flower. Now all we have to do is backfill. You can either do a color or translucent, which is what I'm going to do. And I think that will be pretty cool looking. I mean, yeah, cutting into them definitely made them not perfect. And they didn't keep their shape as good as they did my first time. Now that these are super teardrop, but they're taller at they're fatter at the top and skinnier at the point. So maybe the other way is better if I played around a little bit more with it. I don't know. Well, another option way to do it, and maybe I will try the other way again and see if I can figure this one out. But it was fun to do. Okay, I'm going to let this rest, and then we'll backfill it with translucent, and then I'll be good to go. And this is my white translucent mix, so I'll put these all together and use them for something else later. Because it's not pure translucent anymore, so I wouldn't use it to backfill, but I can mix the more white with it and stretch my white out a little further. Okay, so now it's 9:30. We're back from getting my car. He's finally home and in the shower. And all I did was took the translucent that we mixed up earlier, and I made a sausage of it. And then, because my flower's about 1 inch tall, I'm going to take little sections of it, and they're a little shorter than 1 inch, because when I shape it into a triangle, they don't need to be a full 1 inch. And that way I could just have little sections. It doesn't really matter. You could just cut these off too as one by one. It doesn't really matter. And so we're going to take these circles and we're going to make it a triangle to fit down in there. Okay? Now, that's probably the skinny end. So let me use this one, because that one's not as big as the other ones. So starting by pushing it on the table with our 2 fingers like this against the tile, it's going to make a triangle like that. So we'll start with that. And then work your way down to the tile, because it's a little fatter than my fingers can do, to make it a rough triangle. Okay? Now, that's obviously not going to fit down in this point here, so we need to make this a little skinnier. So now I'm going to pull up on it to make the point a little narrower. And our flowers are kind of round, so when I'm doing that, I'm kind of jamming my finger down in here and kind of rounding, you see that? Rounding that there. You could also take something skinny, you know, and kind of push it in there if you wanted to, but I just do it with my fingers. And this is longer than what I'm going to need it, so I don't really give, you know, care about the ends. Then check it and go, oh, it's still a little not skinny enough. So, and I realized when I was editing this last part, you guys really can't see the white very well. So let me try to hold it still for a second so you could see the white. Can you see the white down in there? When I bake it, you'll be able to see it, and it might give us a cool effect as an accent, or to go with a colored one. So I'm going to make this a little skinnier at the triangle point to really get down in there. And see if something like that will fit all the way down in there. And it should. I just made it a little tall, so I'm going to push it back towards my tile a little bit just to shorten it up. Now the next thing I do to get it so it curves around the petal is I flatten these edges out. I usually do that. There are many ways to backfill, many ways, and it really just depends on my mood, on how I do it. Sometimes I just take little sausages and stick them down in there, like little skinny ones, and just sausage, you know, over and over. Kind of just depends on my mood. Kind of looks like fallopian tubes, like our uterus, a woman's uterus. Doesn't that kind of look like a woman's uterus right there? Maybe that's just me and my science background, taking too much anatomy and physiology. Oh God, can't believe I just saw that in that. For some reason, there's a little piece of orange. Okay, and then we'll stick this down in. I don't know what one I was just shaping that to. Goes this way, actually. Because each one's going to be shaped a little differently. So hang on, what one was I? I want one of these longer ones. Here we go. Kind of set it down in there. And then cut off the excess. Oh, damn it. Freaking these handles. You see it? Just caught my damn petal. I hate these. I hate that Kato one. Sorry, I just... because I catch those effing handles on things all the time, and now that cane right there is always going to have that indent. There's no way I can fill that in. That drove into that. Ugh, I hate those. I keep it out because it's the sharpest one I have other than my brand new ones. So I keep it out when I'm just like slicing clay, and it doesn't need to be anything fancy, but okay. And then see how we made that thinner so it can really wrap around the sides here? Still a little long there. And so I'm going to do that with the rest of these guys. See? And that will pretty much almost give you a perfect wrap. If they don't meet, this triangle and this triangle don't meet in the middle, that's okay. We could put a full covering. If you get them to meet, awesome. Then you don't need to put an outer layer of translucent. So I'm going to keep doing that, and I will be back in a minute. So I have it all backfilled in now, and you know, just where the little seams where I added little sausages, because I got really them to touch pretty much everywhere, I'm not going to wrap a full layer. If you want to be sure, roll your translucent out on a setting, you know, 0, 1, 2, or 3, and wrap a full layer around it. And I've showed you that before because this is actually the first time I've gotten them to touch and close up. So I am going to reduce this now because I just want to get it done tonight. And so I'm going to start in the middle, again with pointers or middle finger and thumb. And again, we want to try to push any air out that's down in there out these folds. So we're going to start in the middle and push up to the end. Okay. Now, the warmer your clay is, the more excess and you're good. You know, the more scrap you're going to get. So, you know, letting it rest would be great, but I got to work in the morning, so I'm not going to let it rest. I kind of want to get it done. Some people will leave it on the tile like this. I struggle leaving it like that, but I guess that does help with distortion, they say. So I go around until I get a little waist, and then once I get a little waist, I start from the middle and I'm going to work up to the edge. And you can feel it with your fingers when it gets about the same size. And I am going to get suck in, but that's kind of how it is. Sometimes you can push it down. But I want to get this baked off tonight so you can see it. Try to put the same amount of pressure each time. I just indented that in there. If that was a petal, I would have flattened that petal out. So really try to put the same amount of pressure each time. With a design in the center, you know, you really don't want to do much rolling because the rolling can distort it. But like on a bullseye cane, you know, where it's just a wrap on the outside of one color, you can roll something like that. But so now that I've gotten up to both ends, I'm going to start in the center again and then work up to the edge. It's awkward with my arms out like this to be under the camera. Usually I work closer to myself. Yes, I have shorts on. So usually I work a little closer to myself. And then up until the end, flip it. You can see the white. All those lumps, those are the white. That's the white. Now you can actually see it because it's 3D. So actually the white is softer than the translucent, which I knew it was. So it's going to move faster in there. And then I'll do a quick roll just to even out my fingerprints on the outside. And then again, start in the middle. Get your indent going. See that right there? And then from the middle up to the edge. And this shouldn't take long because it's soft. Backfilling took me 8 minutes real time. And I'm going to speed it up by 4. See, we did that. Now we're going to flip it from that middle. I do always do it with that hand under. That's weird. I was going to try to flip my hands. And then I one quick roll just to even it off. And I'm going to keep doing that over and over and over until I get the size I want. And once it gets to a good length that you can actually grab it with your hands, you can give it, you know, pull on it a little bit and kind of stretch it out that way. And if you look at it and you go, oh, this part's fatter, well, then just work on that one part. You know, it really wasn't, but I was just saying. And then give it a little roll. And see how I'm saying it's a little longer? So you want to pull from all areas. You don't just want to pull from the ends. Because if you just pull from the ends, only the middle is going to get smaller. I hope to God this one reduces okay. My other 2 flowers I just did right before I did that translucent one all reduced okay. So I don't know why that translucent one that day didn't. I made 3 flowers that day. I made this one, which actually I made a quick little pendant from that one. And then I made that white one. And for some reason that one did a weird thing with the two petals. At least they were side by side, but these all reduced fine. I don't know why that one... I mean, that's like the strangest thing that that one reduced like that. Like I said, it happened to me like a year ago, but it was only because when I was making those backfilling triangles, I got all of them done, and the last two I had to use out of a different package of translucent, and it was crumbly. And that's why I think some of it reduced faster than the other. But this time that didn't happen. It was all out of the same package. So I have no clue why it reduced like that. Almost actually to the biggest size. Might go one more quick to get it down to about the size of a quarter. And then I'll slice some off, a big hunk off, and save that. And then I'll keep reducing some of it to get down even smaller. I generally do about 3 sizes. Get my finger impressions out. Okay, so let's cut, let me use my good blade because this will smear, but we got to get some of it off so we can reduce it down. Okay, so at least they reduced down correctly. Still got a little air in there. Let me bake a little piece off for you. What I'll do. This is what I usually do so I can put it in my book, even though it's not going to be a perfect slice because it's not my good blade either. It's going to smear. And that one's squished really bad. Just so you get the idea of what it looks like, because I don't think you can see it. That blade really squished it. Let me take one more slice. Can you see it? Oh, there you can. Let me bake it up, because that I saved from my book. And then I'll show you that. This one I'm going to keep reducing. Same exact way. Only take a second to get it down to a slightly smaller size. I try to go clockwise and counterclockwise with my reducing sometimes. That's still a little fat right there. Okay, oh, this was this. I'll take this not so good end that I just reduced from, and I'll bake that one. I usually bake a couple different sizes. And so it's my weird end from when I just reduced there. I'll bake that one. So here's, we just got it down pretty small pretty quick. So this one's about the size of a nickel or a penny. And then I'll cut a hunk off of that. Yeah, I still got good clay in here. And then the small one. And even though that's the distorted end, I usually always bake those ones. Okay, so now we have, and before you did a project with this, you would definitely want to let it rest because you'll smear it to all hell. And then I can also cut off my scrap and see. Now I made something cool with these scraps, so keep these scrap ends, because I actually made some cute little projects with the scraps or the distorted parts the other day. I'll show it to you. I did make a video on it. Jeez. Okay, now we're good there. So, not that you'll be able to see it, but these scraps I made some different things. So I made something like this with that first flower, and I made these two. One of them I already brought upstairs, but I made these with the scraps. So I actually did it with this large. So keep the scraps, and there'll be another video after this where I show you how you can use these scraps. That's still a little distorted, but I don't tend to cut all the distortion off, just in case I want to reduce this down to a smaller size, then I don't lose. So all of these scraps you can use, okay, and make cool lentils and cool backings and things like that. So this one did work out. Not exactly the pattern I wanted inside, but let me bake it so you can actually see the pattern. I think this one gave me more of what I was looking for. But now I only baked them for 20 minutes just to get them baked and slightly translucent. Now remember, one, they're not on color, and two, so you'd be able to see them if they were on color, you'd be able to see, and they're thick. They're not even. And two, they're distorted. These are my distorted ends. So they're not perfect. They're probably going to be smeared a little bit and stuff. So anyways, this is our outcome. I definitely have a little gap there in the middle, but I think it'll look cool when they're layered. Especially next to like something like this. I think it'll give it just a little something. Yeah, it could be on a seam, you know, the small ones. If you even make it smaller, you could put it on a seam between two sides. I like them. It's not exactly what I have in my head, but it's not horrible either. I think it's cool. So, anyways, there it is. I think it's neat. I hope you could see enough of it while I was doing it to get the point. And, you know, you guys can tweak it on your own and play with it, but of how you would go about something like that. You know, you could have put it in a color base too. You wanted the background of the petal to be a color, and then put dots in it, or you could put colored dots in it, or Skinner blend teardrops. You know, that might look cool inside of there. Like a light to a dark, a light to dark. That might look cool. There's all kinds of things you can do, but I'm pretty happy with that, actually. That's not far off from what I was going for in my drawings. So it's not too bad. So anyways, there it is. There's that video. We'll probably do something with all of these flowers coming up soon, once all the videos come out for them. One a week.